and welcome to another episode of Other Items of Interest. I'm your host, Jack Zablocki. This week we have Booby Traps Gone Bad, highly contagious urine, and how to paint your dog to keep monkeys away. All that and more on this episode of Other Items of Interest. Hello and welcome to another episode of Other Items of Interest. I'm your host, Jack Zablocki. This week I'm feeling tired and cold and lazy. So it's going to be a short show, lots of short articles, and I hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, I'd suggest go back to last week and listen to the best of compilation of poops and farts in the news that we did. It seemed to be received pretty well. People liked it. Go listen to that if you're looking for entertainment. There's a little best of for the holiday week of Thanksgiving. Otherwise, we got this very short show for you this week. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just feeling so lazy and just not feeling it this week. Tired. It's so cold out. I hope you're listening someplace where it's warm and you can enjoy it. My bones hurt. It's so cold. Let's just get on with the show. Enjoy it, if you will. Oh, just wanted to put out there, visit us online at www.otheritemsofinterest.com. You can email us at otheritemsofinterestpod@gmail.com. You can visit us on Instagram at otheritemspod and on Twitter at otheritems. Almost forgot to get that out of the way. But now it's out of the way. So you can enjoy the show now, if you'd like. Okay. Okay, here we go. Headline reads, Laziness has won. Apostrophe Protection Society admits its defeat. And in other news, there is an Apostrophe Protection Society. From TheGuardian.com. A society dedicated to preserving the much abused apostrophe is to be shut down, as its chairman said ignorance and laziness had won. John Richards, who worked in journalism for much of his career, started the Apostrophe Protection Society in 2001 after he retired. Now 96, Richards is calling time on the society, which lists 3 simple rules for correct use of the punctuation mark. Writing on the society's website, he said, fewer organizations and individuals are now caring about the correct use of the apostrophe in the English language. We and our many supporters worldwide have done our best, but the ignorance and laziness present in modern times have won. Richards started the society after seeing the same shame mistakes. They are mistakes that are shameful, to be honest. But the actual quote is, after seeing the same mistakes over and over again, and hoped he would find half a dozen people who felt the same way. He said, I didn't find half a dozen people. Instead, within a month of my plaint appearing in national newspaper, I received over 500 letters of support, not only from all corners of the United Kingdom, but also from America, Australia, France, Sweden, Hong Kong, and Canada. So it is a shame that the Apostrophe Protection Society is shutting down, I suppose. This might be the most mundane news I've ever reported on. I don't know if I should apologize or not, or it's impressive how mundane this is. But somebody should keep this society going, just for the hell of it. For what's right in the world, right? Sure, why not? And in other hard-hitting news from Newsweek.com, anti-vaxxer parents don't want their kids to be bitten by vampires. Russian ad campaign suggests. I don't know what we're covering this week. It's all nonsense. I'm sorry. A new Russian ad campaign mockingly suggested that parents opposed to vaccinations are afraid to give the potentially life-saving inoculations to their children out of concern they could be bitten by vampires. Oh, The Moscow Health Authority released the ad titled, "What Do Vampires and Vaccinations Have in Common?" on Wednesday, the Moscow Times reported. The clip features a vampire with long hair, fangs, and dark, dilated eyes with his young daughter visiting a doctor on a stormy night to discuss vaccinations. "I'd like to know if my daughter can drink their blood," the father vampire says in the video, referring to individuals who have had vaccinations. The doctor argues that drinking blood is uncivilized, but suggests that the blood of vaccinated people would be safer to consume. Vaccine opponents' blood can be very dangerous, the doctor asserts, and then points out the numerous advantages of vaccinations. After the vampire father asks if parents who do not vaccinate their kids don't want them to be bitten by vampires, the doctor agrees, positing that it would be a logical explanation. "Yes, perhaps it's the only explicable reason," he says. I don't know what the hell I'm reading. Representatives for the Moscow Health Agency told the state-run RIA Novosti news agency that they wanted to use humor and an unconventional approach to inform the public about the benefits of vaccines. When communicating with Muscovites, we stepped away from the complicated medical terms and bureaucratic structures and are speaking with the residents in one language, they said. Nearly 50% of Russian children born in 2016 were not fully vaccinated, according to the medically prescribed schedule, the Moscow Times reported in 2018, citing a report by the Federal Center of Hygiene and Epidemiology. This reality has led medical experts to warn that Russia will struggle to maintain so-called herd immunity, which prevents major virus outbreaks. Similar issues have occurred in the U.S., as many parents have been led to believe that vaccinations are harmful to their children. Notably, Russian trolls and bots appear to be part of the reason that misinformation about vaccinations has circulated online. Foreign Policy reported in April on a study conducted by Professor David Bronatowski at George Washington University, which examined 2 million tweets from 2014 to 2017. It noted that Russian accounts were significantly more likely to tweet about concerns surrounding vaccinations than other Twitter users. Some of the accounts promoted vaccination as the right choice for parents, while others tweeted false information and conspiracy theories regarding vital inoculations. The research concluded that the Russians were attempting to sow discord and confusion about the issue, using it as part of a broader effort to divide American society. Always with the Russian bots. They're always getting blamed for everything. I guess that's okay. I don't know. I don't know anymore. Let's move on. Vampires. What the hell? This next one comes from a website called commercialappeal.com. Headline reads, Memphis fan sues Jerry Lawler for failing to paint portrait of his 33-pound cat. If you don't know who Jerry Lawler is, he was a wrestler. He does a lot of convention stuff, I guess, nowadays. I know him from like 30 to 40 years ago when he slapped around Andy Kaufman on the David Letterman show. Which you can find on YouTube if you search Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman, David Letterman. It's quite amusing. Now on to the article. Fans sued pro wrestling great Jerry Lawler over a painting the wrestler allegedly agreed to do, a 4x5 foot depiction of Bentley, a 33-pound Maine Coon cat. Lawler never painted Bentley and his fluffy belly, however. And in June, the fan, Jason Lurie, sued Lawler and Glenn Moore, the former co-host of Lawler's podcast Dinner with the King, for breach of contract, alleging that $1,750 in goods Lurie paid for, including the painting, were never delivered. During sworn testimony in Shelby County General Sessions Court Tuesday, Lawler said, Glenn Moore took advantage of both of us, adding that his former friend had taken $2,500 from him and never paid it back. Late Tuesday, the judge ruled in Lawler's favor. And there's a picture of Bentley, the very round Maine Coon cat. big ball of fluff. In recent years, Lawler has become known for his artwork. He often paints scenes of pro wrestling and portraits of wrestlers. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. Lawler said Moore, whom he had been friends with for 8 years, fell on hard times in late 2018 and lost his job. During that period, Lawler said Moore contacted multiple fans without his permission, including Lurie, to sell items including paintings and some memorabilia items that Lawler didn't even own. A different fan approached Lawler at an autograph signing in New York to inquire about a painting Moore had promised him. He testified. That was when he learned of what he described as Moore's scams. Moore, who is a co-defendant in the suit, did not appear in court Tuesday. He has not been served with notice of the suit, according to Lurie's attorney, Brendan McNary. The cat owner's attorney argued that Lawler is on the hook to return the funds and that past interactions between Lurie and Moore show that Moore and Lawler had a business relationship. McNary played a snippet of the Dinner with the King podcast in which Moore and Lawler discussed the cat painting and how he had yet to do it. And there's a picture of some of Lawler's artwork, a bunch of portraits of wrestlers. I don't know who half these people are, but they are pretty good paintings. I assume. I mean, the people that I do recognize, they look like the people that I'm supposed to be recognizing, so... Joe Barton, the wrestler's attorney, and Lawler argued that there was no business relationship between Moore and Lawler. They said Moore handled those transactions as a friend. Lawler did draw a sketch of Lurie's niece, for which the fan paid $250. Lawler acknowledged that he had received the money for the sketch, but denied receiving $1,750, $250 for another sketch, and $1,500 as a down payment for the painting. The wrestler said he doesn't enjoy using oil paints in his artwork because it takes too long to paint and dry. He said he raised the price on the painting in an attempt to dissuade Lurie from purchasing it and had been told by Moore that he no longer needed to paint it, which Lurie disputes. Lawler, in an interview with Commercial Appeal and in court, said he has offered to paint Bentley, the Maine Coon in question, to make things right with Lurie. After Tuesday morning's proceedings, Judge Lynn Kopp wrote an order that the plaintiff, Lurie, had failed to demonstrate that Moore was acting on behalf of Lawler, whoever. Man, today's show is just lackluster. I'll be honest about it. We'll move on to the next story, though, just because we're doing it. Okay. From the BBC.com, Booby Traps. Man in Maine killed by own device. A 65-year-old American man who rigged his home with a booby trap to keep out intruders has been killed by the device. Ronald Sear called police in the town of Van Buren in the state of Maine to say he had been shot. Police found a door had been designed to fire a handgun should anyone attempt to enter. Mr. Sear was taken to hospital but died of his injuries. It is illegal for homeowners to install such traps. Police in Van Buren, which borders the Canadian province of New Brunswick, said they responded to a 911 call in the early evening of Thanksgiving last Thursday from a man who said he had been shot. Following an extensive investigation that lasted into the early morning, it was determined that Mr. Sear had been shot as a result of the unintentional discharge of one of his homemade devices, the police department said in a Facebook post. Regretfully, Mr. Sear succumbed to the injuries he sustained from the gunshot. It is not known how he managed to set off the device. The police also found other possible devices and called in help from the Maine State Police Bomb Squad. There have been other cases of booby-trapped homes in the U.S. In February, a team of real estate investors walking through a home they had bought in Philadelphia discovered that a staircase had been rigged with string, which, if tripped, would have triggered a swinging knife. In September last year, a man in Illinois was killed when he opened a neighbor's shed that had been rigged to fire a shotgun. William Wasman, 48, was found guilty this September of first-degree murder and aggravated battery. And in October last year, a man in Oregon was charged after fortifying his home like a scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. FBI agents found a circular hot tub linked up to a tripwire, a fortified front door, animal traps, and a wheelchair rigged with a shotgun that went off, hitting an agent in the leg. It's like Kevin McAllister from Home Alone gone mad. Shouldn't Kevin have been arrested at the end of that movie for booby trapping his house from the burglars? I think so. Send that little shit to jail. The definition of booby trap is a concealed or camouflaged device that can cause bodily injury when triggered. It is illegal to set up devices in your home to protect it from intruders if those devices can cause harm. The legal argument is that life is more valued than property, and that the devices have no means of preventing accidental harm or distinguishing between targets. Even if the trap targets a criminal, the trap setter, though having the right to protect their home, has no right to determine the punishment. Sounds just. Injury can lead to lawsuits. In the 1971 case of Catco versus Briney in Iowa, 2 homeowners were held liable for injuries caused by their spring-loaded shotgun to a trespasser intent on stealing from a vacant property. The court ruled the deadly force was not reasonable and awarded the plaintiff $30,000 in damages. Yeah, Kevin McAllister should have gone to jail. I mean, that's the law. And there's attempted murder on those two burglars. Not to say that they weren't in the wrong, but the article said, you can't just decide the punishment for yourself. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And now a story about pee. Movie theater evacuates after a package of highly contagious urine samples is delivered to the wrong address, from CNN.com. Friday night at the movies ended abruptly when urine samples labeled highly contagious were delivered to the wrong address. A package marked highly contagious human substance arrived at the North Bend Theater in North Bend, Washington, according to East Side professional firefighters who responded. Authorities evacuated the theater and closed nearby streets. The manager was also taken to the hospital as a precaution. About an hour after the theater was cleared out, the substance was determined to be urine samples and was disposed. How do you dispose of highly contagious urine? You just flush it? I guess you can just flush it, right? Sure. All is well, the theater wrote on its website. There was no danger. We will be open as usual on Saturday to show Frozen 2. Turns out the package was meant for a medical clinic in Tacoma, about 45 miles away. Sergeant Paul Graham with the police told KOMO how it ended up at the theater is unclear. I'm sure highly contagious urine is probably unclear as well. Probably a little cloudy. And in other public health news from cbc.ca, Public Health urges Christmas revelers to spread holiday cheer, not gonorrhea. Fair enough. As Christmas approaches with its traditional social get-togethers, the Department of Health is urging people not to include risky sexual behavior among their festive overindulgences. This holiday season, spread holiday cheer, not #gonorrhea, read an ad posted on Twitter on Tuesday morning. The province is still experiencing a provincial outbreak of the sexually transmitted disease, said Dr. Jennifer Russell, Chief Medical Officer of Health. She hopes the blunt message is enough to get attention and a reaction. The fact that people are having unprotected sex puts everyone at risk, she said. Before the outbreak started, there were 54 cases of gonorrhea in the province in the previous 5 years. In 2018, there were 96 cases in a single year. That was a big wake-up call that we had a problem and we needed to act, Russell said. The numbers are still higher than usual, she said, but they might be starting to go down. There were 20 cases in the first quarter of 2019. The outbreak won't be declared over until there have been 3 consecutive quarters with declining case numbers. Russell said she thinks the promotional campaign developed by the Department of Health staff and an outside consultant is working. We're seeing an increase in testing across the province, and that's very encouraging, she said. The most at risk are men having sex with men, people having sex with sex trade workers, and people with multiple sexual partners. So how is gonorrhea spread? Gonorrhea can be spread through oral, anal, and vaginal sex, said Russell, and the effects can be serious. It can affect your fertility if you're a woman, she said, and it can be transmitted from mom to baby. That's besides a number of uncomfortable symptoms. For men, those symptoms include white or yellow discharge from the penis and burning or pain while urinating. Women can have unusual discharge from the vagina, burning while urinating, vaginal bleeding after sex, and lower abdominal pain. Does not sound like a good time. Sometimes there are no symptoms at all, but that doesn't mean the disease won't get passed to someone else. If you're using dating apps and having anonymous, unprotected sexual encounters, then you really need to get tested, even if you don't have any symptoms, said Russell. And if you're getting checked for gonorrhea, she said, you should probably also get checked for syphilis, HIV, and chlamydia. There are many opportunities to do that in terms of primary health care providers. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, that's a good PSA. Can't hurt to get checked out. #gonorrhea. Now for some Christmas news. Christians disappointed piece of wood allegedly from Jesus' manger is so small. From newshub.co.nz. A fragment of wood reputed to be from the manger where Jesus was laid after his humble birth arrived in Bethlehem from the Vatican on Saturday, November 30th, kicking off Christmas season at the town revered as the place of Jesus' birth. The wood piece, just a few centimeters long, was one kept in the Basilica of Santa Maria in Rome. It was handed over earlier this week to the custodian of the Bethlehem Church, who said it brought great honor to believers and pilgrims in the area. The provenance of ancient relics is often questionable. Still, they are revered by the Christian faithful, among them the coachloads of pilgrims who squeeze through a narrow sandstone entrance in the Church of the Nativity to visit the birth grotto that is its centerpiece. According to the custos of the Holy Land for the Catholic Church, Francesco Patton, the relic dates back more than 2,000 years and was sent to the Vatican in the 7th century. Encased in a silver-colored ornamental tabletop stand, the relic was unveiled to the public on Friday at the Notre Dame of Jerusalem Center before it was taken to Bethlehem on Saturday. A procession of marching bands greeted the relic as it arrived in Bethlehem. It was placed in St. Catherine's Church at the Church of the Nativity compound in Manger Square. We are proud that part of the manger is back in Bethlehem because we feel that the soul of God is with us more than before, said Chris Geikeman, 53, a Bethlehem homemaker, as she stood outside the church. And there's a picture of the very tiny piece of wood. And it is really overshadowed by the silver ornamental case it is kept in. It's really tiny. It could have been gotten from anywhere, really. It's really a nondescript little rectangle of thin wood. It doesn't look that old either. And as I'm a little let down, it says here, others were a little let down. It's a small piece. We thought it would be a bigger piece, said Sandy Hijazine, 32. When we heard that the manger is coming back, we thought it would be the whole manger, but then we saw it. Bethlehem in the Israeli-occupied West Bank is usually particularly busy ahead of Christmas on December 25th, with tourists and pilgrims flocking to the biblical city. Christians make up around 1% of the Palestinian population in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. You can check out this little piece of wood. It's tiny. It is a letdown. Not that I thought that they had the real manger intact, but it's such a small piece of wood. Woman fined for being too short to get rubbish into her bin. From walesonline.co.uk. A woman has been fined £100 by her local council for being too short to put rubbish in her bin. Tia Goldsmith has been sent a letter informing her she has been fined 1,200 pounds for leaving cardboard rubbish next to her bin when she could reach to drop it inside. Tia, 36, has lodged an appeal against the fine on the grounds that at 4 feet tall, she was not big enough to put the recyclables into the wheelie bin. The trouble started when Tia dragged cardboard packaging from a new fireplace to the alley behind her home. Unable to get it into the bin, she left the rubbish next to it, hoping the bin men would take it away, reports Plymouth Live. When they didn't, a warden saw what had been left behind and issued a fine. Tia says she has been told to pay the fine or risk being taken to court. She said, "I think it's disgusting. I'm worried about what will happen. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have never even gone to a magistrate's court. The way they are treating me and the way they have gone about it is unacceptable. I want to fight it until the end, even if I end up having to pay the £100. At least I'd have fought it and all over a couple of cardboard boxes. I don't understand it. There's no logic." Tia, who has achondroplasia, said, "I don't class myself as someone who is disabled, but I am aware I am at a disadvantage compared to average height people," Tia said. "I told the council about my condition, that it's difficult for me to reach the bins at the best of times. I said under the Disability Discrimination Act, it can be actively change its procedures for people with a disability." Tia says her circumstances had been ignored by council officials. "I said in my first lot of calls to them that I have not had any acknowledgement of my appeal letter," she said. "Not one person has taken ownership of it. I've been told I should have checked to see if someone had come to collect my rubbish on the day, but no one checks that someone has collected their rubbish. You just expect, when you pay a council tax, for someone to come along and pick it all up. So what will happen at Christmas when people order from Amazon, need large cardboard boxes taken away? What if they don't fit inside their bins?" She added, "I've been fined for littering 2 cardboard boxes next to my bin in the alleyway next door to me." In a statement, a Plymouth City Council spokesman said, "We are unable to explain the full set of circumstances that led to this fixed penalty notice being issued because it remains an ongoing case. Litter and fly tipping in the back lanes of Plymouth is an issue regularly reported to us by residents, and as we have heavily publicized, issuing fixed penalty notices is one of the ways that we are trying to tackle this. So nothing is fixed, nothing is settled. She's still fighting in court because she's 4 feet tall and can't reach her bin." This should be easy to get to. Somebody should get to this. What to do about raiding monkeys? Well, you can do like this farmer did. Farmer paints dog to look like tiger to scare away raiding monkeys in Karnataka, from news18.com. There's a picture of the pup. He is really painted like a tiger. Check that out in the show notes at www.otheritemsofinterest.com if you'd like, where all our news articles are posted. Painted dogs have come to the rescue of hapless farmers in Karnataka who have been struggling to deal with intense monkey infestations in their farms. Farmers seem to be painting their dogs in tiger stripes to scare away the monkey menace in Malnad region of Shivamoga, Declan Herald reported. Simians indiscriminately destroying crops and farms around the areas has led to major problems for farmers. Farmer Shrikant Gowda, who owned the dog, said he got the idea of using fake tigers to scare away monkeys 4 years ago when he visited Uttara Kannada. He found a farmer in Batkal who was using a fake tiger doll to scare away monkeys. Gowda tried the same tactic in his Areca field, and realized it worked. However, Gowda told Deccan Herald that the endeavor would not last much longer, so he instead painted his dog. The paint is made of hair dye and lasts up to a month before fading. The farmer has also put up posters of his dog and that of tigers in the grass to scare away rogue monkeys. This is not the first time that a dog started masquerading as a tiger in India. A dog named Wag in Udupi was also painted with black hair dye in 2016. Its owner, Nagaraj Mestha, told Bangalore Mirror that he did it to protect his fields from raiding monkeys. So if you're listening and you have a problem with rating monkeys, paint your dog. I think it's the best thing to do. And now for some good news. Supreme Court awards $20,000 to woman fined for refusing to hold escalator handrail, from cbc.ca. The Supreme Court of Canada has ordered that a woman who was arrested for refusing to hold an escalator handrail in a metro station in Laval, Quebec, be awarded $20,000 in damages. Bella Kassoian was at the metro station in 2009 when a police officer told her to respect a pictogram with the instruction, "Hold the handrail." The situation grew tense when she refused to comply and declined to identify herself when asked. She was arrested, detained for 30 minutes, and finally let go with 2 tickets, one for $100 for disobeying a pictogram and a $320 fine for obstructing the work of an inspector. She was acquitted of the 2 infractions in Montreal Municipal Court in 2012 and subsequently filed a $45,000 lawsuit against Montreal's Transit Authority, the City of Laval, and one of the officers, Fabio Camacho. Her suit was rejected by Quebec Court in 2015 and by the Quebec Court of Appeal in 2017, which said Kassoian was the author of her own misfortune. The Supreme Court has ordered $20,000 to be paid to Kassoian in damages. The Société des Transports de Montréal, which operates the metro, and Camacho will each be liable for half the amount. The judges wrote in their decision that Kassoian was entitled to refuse to obey an unlawful order and therefore committed no fault in the case. A well-informed person whose rights are infringed must be able to respond within reason without being held civilly liable, the court concluded. Kassoian was visibly emotional after the decision, saying it was a very difficult process, but that she was happy the judges recognized the rule of law. "I knew that I didn't do anything wrong. It was the principle of it," she said. I knew. Kassoian said it was important to take this to the Supreme Court because the decision is not just for herself, but for all Canadians. Yeah, I don't think you should have to pay attention to a silly pictogram, which is merely a suggestion of how to be safe. I think this is good. That's all I have to say about it. The following article is nice and short. Wild turkey helps driver avoid speeding ticket from Livermore officer, from sanfrancisco.cbslocal.com. A wild turkey gave a Bay Area driver something to be thankful for as it stopped a Livermore police officer from issuing the driver a traffic ticket. Livermore police posted a body cam video on their Facebook page from the officer pulling over a driver for speeding. As the officer is about to hand over the citation, a large turkey runs up unexpectedly on him. "You're not getting a ticket. He doesn't want you to get a ticket," the officer can be heard saying. The turkey's act seemed to have worked. The officer ends up driving away, letting the driver go without incident. The department labeled the intervening bird "No Ticket Turkey." And that's it. I think that might be the shortest article we've ever done, for real. Wow, less than a minute. And this seems like a good one to go out on as we end our show. From clickorlando.com. Florida man stashes meth deep in belly button, police say. Leave it up to Florida man. Florida man has finally figured out what a belly button is actually good for, stashing drugs, according to News 6 station WPLG. Martin Skelly, 41, was arrested earlier this month after he showed up at a Clearwater McDonald's with a loaded needle. Skelly was transported to jail where he underwent a full-body search. Despite telling officers he had no additional contraband during his arrest, a jail deputy found a baggie filled with methamphetamine wedged deep within the belly button cavity of the 380-pound Skelly. I wonder how long it was in there. Really. According to the police report, upon finding the drugs in his belly button, Skelly responded, "I was just being dumb and not thinking." 2 more felony charges were filed against Skelly after the meth was found. Well then, I guess we're at the end of the show. Good riddance. It was a bit of a low energy show this week and short. Deal with it, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. We'll be back next week with more of the same. So, in the meantime, just cue the music. Welcome to the end of the mundane episode of Other Items of Interest. I've been your host, Jack Zablocki. You can visit us online at www.otheritemsofinterest.com. And until next week, have a good time. Bye-bye.